You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, welcome back to The Bible Guys. My name is Chris, this is Jeff, and we are qualified to be The Bible Guys because we love the Bible.
Well, because we got the URL first.
Right.
BibleGuys.com.
BibleGuys.com. That's
so
why.
that makes us pros now. You can trust everything that you hear on the internet.
That's right. The World Wide Web.
That's right.
So today we are kicking off a segment that Desiree put together, and this is a spin off of a very favorite segment.
Yeah, this is one of our favorites.
Well, oftentimes we do a dad joke competition, which I love.
That's right.
We all love them as long as they're good jokes. But here's the spin. She said these are featuring jokes sent in from our listeners this week.
This is fantastic.
Yes.
Yes. I'm very excited about these.
Which, by the way, we didn't even ask for people to do this.
Well, people send us all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
So this is pretty great.
So great. So let me just say, if you're listening and you know a good dad joke and you're like, hey, I wonder if I send it in,
right.
I wonder if it ever make the show.
Well, here it is.
Well, here it is. So
yes.
Info at... is it Bible Guys or thebibleguys.com?
Info. We'll put it right here on the screen. Info at thebibleguys.com.
It's the Bible Guys. Yeah. It's info at thebibleguys.com. Give us an email.
Yes.
So, okay, here we go. So you want to do the first one?
Yes, I just went off that screen. Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
I told my wife she was drawing her eyebrows too high. She looked surprised.
Did you open mine? Oh, I opened yours.
You opened mine. Quit looking at my stuff.
Oh, yeah, okay. Here we go. Yeah. Okay, here's mine.
So Chris is spelled Chris.
Where is it, Jeffrey?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Mine says, got a couple of sock puppets for sale. Anyone interested in taking them off my hands?
That's a good one.
I like that a lot.
Hey, our listeners really are good. Why don't skeletons fight each other?
Why?
They don't have the guts.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty good. That's funny.
I like that one. Okay.
Hey, listen, I know you're busy, but can you say wonton backwards?
Ton-one?
Not now.
No.
Not now. That's wonton.
Wonton.
Not now.
Not now. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wonton.
Wow.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay.
That's one of those you have to read.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was amazing. Okay. What do you get when you drop a piano down a mine shaft? A flat minor.
A flat minor? Oh, my gosh.
A flat minor.
Yeah, right.
A flat minor.
That's a musician joke.
Yep. Very funny.
Yeah. Okay, my friend lost his car. I call him Carlos.
Oh, no. Nope. Not laughing at that one.
No, that was terrible.
Okay. Did you hear about the claustrophobic astronaut? He just needed a little space.
That's pretty good. Okay, ready? Instead of water, I put Red Bull in the back Instead of water, I put Red Bull in the back of my coffee maker this morning. I was halfway to work before I realized I forgot my car. He forgot his car.
Because he had a glass of Red Bull.
That's so funny.
Okay.
That is really funny.
This past summer, my wife and I were in Austria.
Yeah.
And we were going to a little village called Hallstatt. It's really beautiful. Anyways, on the way, we passed the Red Bull world headquarters.
Oh.
And it's in the mountains and in this forest, and it's like really space age looking. As a matter of fact, all the buildings, they're kind of tied together, but they look like spaceships, round spaceships like this.
Okay.
And coming out of it's the main entrance building, the glass looks like it's broken, and a whole herd of bulls are running out, and they're huge, like copper bulls or brass.
Wow.
Right? And they're statues, and they're running right down into a lake. It's really magnificent. Really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the Red Bull.
That was.
Oh, I can't imagine. Yeah, but the owner of Red Bull is the richest man I don't think he's alive anymore, but was the richest man in Austria. So, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Anyways, yeah, but it's funny to me, all that caffeine, and in his mind, what the whole world needs to think when they drive past my place is so much energy that comes crashing out of our building, right? It's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Why did the girl keep her trumpet in the snow?
Why?
She wanted to play cool jazz.
Oof.
That was a rough one.
That was rough.
Right.
That's actually really rough.
Well, not as rough as your Carlos.
Carlos.
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't even. I tried to make it sound good by saying Carlos.
Yeah, Carlos.
But it's Carlos. It's terrible.
Okay.
Okay. Whoever
So you know who sent that in.
Right.
You know who are.
If that's you,
Bow your head in shame. Look away. Don't make eye contact with the screen right
shame.
now.
Look away right now. Don't you match my eyes, boy.
Oh, no.
Okay, here we
Okay.
go. Last one. My friend joined a dating site for arsonists. He's been sent a lot of matches. That's okay.
Oh, no.
That's pretty good.
That's clever. Clever. Okay.
All right.
We're sorry. We're sorry for that. Thank you, listeners.
For putting up with it.
Yeah, well, thank 8 of the 10 listeners.
Yes.
We're going to thank 80% of our listeners
We
today.
don't like Carlos, and we don't like, what's the other one?
Cool Jazz.
Cool Jazz.
Are you mad about those two?
Yeah, I'm not mad.
Mad?
I think I actually am mad about Carlos.
Yeah.
Because
mad.
it doesn't make any sense. Like Cool Jazz, you understand it.
Yeah, yes.
Right?
Right.
It's like, oh, it's just a terrible joke.
Right.
But Carlos doesn't sound like Carlos.
Okay. Well, hey, we want to invite you. We believe in redemption.
Okay.
So send us a better one.
Okay. You know
that
what?
it?
That's good.
Is that good?
I dare you to top it, right? But by topping it, what we're really meaning is redeem it.
Yes. Redeem
Yes.
it. Okay.
And let us know. Hey, I'm the Carlos person,
You don't have to do that.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll never know otherwise.
Well, Des knows.
Well,
She knows.
if she does searching or history or whatever.
Yeah.
But if somebody announces it, then it'll be a segment. Then our listeners will be like, "Oh, it's the Carlos person."
Yeah. All right. Well, how many do they have to send to redeem themselves? So that was a bad enough joke.
Just one.
Oh, I would say it needs to be probably 4 or 5. Don't you think?
Well, I mean,
4 or 5 better.
as long
it was
as-
so bad. It brought the whole segment down for so long.
Yeah.
The consequence of that should
it's
be
still currently bringing the segment down.
okay. So whoever sent in that joke, just understand if you were ever our friends, you would just spend your time being brutalized because this is how we show love to each other.
That's right.
And the other people we love.
That's right. Which means we love the fact
we
that
love you.
send it in.
Yes.
We love it.
Our sense of just we're actually if we're super polite to you, either we don't know you or we don't like you.
That could be true, actually.
Right.
That could be true.
Like sometimes you find yourself just being as surface polite as possible, like hoping the conversation ends quickly.
That comment made me imagine those moments, and I just get exhausted.
Yeah. Right. You just go, oh, well, okay, thank you.
Surface polite.
Yeah.
And just going through motions of being surface polite
It's hard, isn't it?
it's hard.
Yes. It's more fun to have fun.
Yeah. Well, when you have good friends over, and all of a sudden you look at the clock and it's midnight, you're like, oh my goodness, it's midnight. It's like that's when you know they're good friends.
Right.
Right. When time just goes by and it's easy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I just hiccuped and yawned at the same time. So
Is there a name for that? A hiccup and a yawn?
hiccup a yawn.
Yawn?
Hiccup
Yawn a cup?
Yawn a cup. We're just being ridiculous now.
Okay. Well, this is a rough passage. So, not rough, but it comes up twice in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, also 2 Chronicles chapter 1. So if you're reading and you're doing a kind of a chronological study, just understand the life of Solomon and the life of David show up in multiple books.
Right.
And so we just keep flipping back and forth. We're not trying to read all of them. They basically say the same thing. But here in 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 20, that's what we're reading, right?
Yep.
Yes.
First through
The people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore. They were very contented with plenty to eat and drink. Solomon ruled over the kingdoms from the Euphrates River in the north to the land of the Philistines and the border of Egypt in the south. The conquered peoples of those lands sent tribute money to Solomon and continued to serve him throughout his life. The daily food requirements for Solomon's palace were 150 bushels of choice flour, 300 bushels of meal, also 10 oxen from the fattening pens, 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep or goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roe deer, and choice poultry. So that was just breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day.
That's every day.
Wow.
For the palace, for the armies, for the what?
Okay.
For everybody, right?
They're meat eaters, buddy.
Yeah.
Solomon's dominion extended over all the kingdoms west of the Euphrates River, from Tipsha to Gaza. and there was peace on all his borders. During the lifetime of Solomon, all of Judah and Israel lived in peace and safety, and from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, each family had its own home and garden. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for his chariot horses, and he had 12,000 horses, and the district governors faithfully provided food for King Solomon and his court. Each made sure nothing was lacking during the month assigned to him. They also brought the necessary barley and straw for the royal horses in the stables. God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding and knowledge, as vast as the sands of the seashore. In fact, his wisdom exceeded that of all the wise men of the East and the wise men of Egypt. He was wiser than anyone else, including Ethan the Ezrahite and the sons of Mahal, Heman. Really?
Wow.
Calcol and Darda. Right. His fame spread throughout only He-Man got his own TV show.
No doubt.
But, yeah, the others, not so much. Calcol and Darda.
Yeah.
His fame spread throughout all the surrounding nations. He composed some 3,000 proverbs and wrote 1,005 songs. He could speak with authority about all kinds of plants, from the great cedar of Lebanon to the tiny hyssop that grows from cracks in a wall. He could also speak about animals, birds, small creatures, and fish. And kings from every nation sent their ambassadors to listen to the wisdom of Solomon.
Yeah. And
I love this.
Yeah, I do too. And it's prosperity and wisdom. And you know what? I know it's, in terms of like...
It feels similar to yesterday.
It does, but, you always ask yourself, there's a sermon in there somewhere, right? Like, where's the sermon? And before I get to any attempt on a sermon thought, I just want to marvel at the fact that the Queen of Sheba observed, when we read 1 Chronicles yesterday, she observed how organized the kingdom was, right. And she marveled over the organization. Well, you can't even, this gives us a little bit more insight. Think about 10 oxen from the fattening pens, 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep or goats, as well as deer, gazelles, roe deer, and choice poultry, with 150 bushels of flour, 300 bushels of meal. So think of everybody who lived in the palace or around the palace, or the armies that served the palace, the servant guards, and think of how organized you would have to be in order to execute. Ready? Not one big kitchen, but rather, how many kitchens?
Oh, yeah.
Hundreds?
Yeah.
Right?
So many, right.
So many. And then have that it's just an incredible thing to establish that from nothing.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that if you've never seen anything like that, a queen who comes from Ethiopia sees that and says, I've never seen anything like this.
Right. Let's ask ChatGPT, how many meals can an average ox provide?
Gee whiz. What a question.
Between 500 and 700 pounds of usable meat. So if it was 700 pounds of meat, between somewhere around 1,400 meals.
Wow. So one ox.
So and they're killing 10 oxen.
Wow.
So 14,000 meals. Let's say it was on the low side, 10,000 meals.
Okay.
Right, just from the oxen.
Wow.
He's feeding 10,000 people a day just from his oxen. Then it's 20 pasture-fed cattle. That's probably going to be 500 or 600.
Right.
More meals times 20. It's going to be another 10,000 meals. And then he's got 100 sheep or goats. Wow. You and I, we've eaten sheep and goats in Africa before, right?
Sure.
And I mean, it feeds the whole village, 100 people.
Right.
So you're talking another 100 of them. That's going to be another 10,000 people. Mm-hmm. It's crazy, right? He's 30,000 people a day he's feeding. Or 30,000 meals a day. So 10,000 people a day if he's eating 3 times a day.
Okay, so perhaps a sermon in here is that when the king does well, in other words, when he is a person of prosperity, and in this case, he's a person of wisdom and prosperity who follows God. Right? So, have you ever heard the saying, everything rises and falls on leadership?
Yes. Yeah.
And so, when the king and the leader does well, then everybody in the household, who, by the way, may not even deserve it, may not even earn it or work for it, but yet everybody gets well taken care of. And so, that speaks into the roles that God has given, for instance, like me. So God has given me a role as a father, as a husband, as a leader, as a friend, as a family member, right? And so I'm a provider. I do all sorts of things. And when I don't follow God, and when I am not doing well, my life is not my own. Right. There's the sermon.
Yes.
My life is not my own.
Yes.
So people always think, hey, I'm just gonna, like, I met with a guy yesterday. In fact, well, obviously I won't give you his name, but he is. I did their wedding 5 years ago, and they're struggling, and he's been in and out of rehab, and he literally just got out of rehab a couple of days ago, and this is his third rehab in just 1 year, and he's not doing well. And
if you're listening, stick with it, man. Don't give up. Don't give up.
And you know what? Here's the thing. When I met with him yesterday, I was very encouraged.
Good.
And I was hopeful, and I was prayerful. We prayed together at the restaurant, and so I'm just prayed. I'd like, maybe it's this time, right?
Yeah, right.
And this,
keep fighting.
This is the time. Keep on fighting. But here's the thing. We talked about the consequences of him wanting to do what he wanted to do.
Right.
When he
indulging himself.
When he indulges himself,
right.
It's not just his life, right? It's his wife, it's his family, it's his loved ones, and everybody suffers because of obviously in this case it's an addiction, but in a lot of cases it's just selfishness.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about him anymore, right? As a leader, as a family man, as a father, right? Anyway, I just think that this is a great lesson, even under these goofy stats of trying to figure out 20,000 oxen meals, right?
Right.
And here we are doing that math, but there's a sermon in there somewhere that says your life is not your own, and everything rises and falls on leadership. And when you serve God and when you follow God, then the blessings in every life you touch benefit, and the responsibilities certainly that God has given you also benefit, because you're just living life and following God.
I've been very struck by the fact that the world is run by kings.
Yeah.
And you pray for good kings and hope that God stops bad kings, right? That's
right.
it. And whether we're talking about kings of industry or kings of nations or leaders in communities, right? There's this concept. And so what you pray for is good kings.
Right.
And if you have the opportunity to be a king in your office or at your corporation, be a good one. Be a good man, be a good woman. And what you see here is it starts off, the people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore, which is what God promised Abraham. It says they were very contented with plenty to eat and drink, right? So a good king doesn't work for himself. This is what we warned about yesterday, because eventually Solomon shifts the other way. But during this time, he was good, and he worked for the benefit of his people. He leveraged his wisdom. He leveraged his power. He leveraged his wealth. You notice it never mentions that he's taxing his own people. Here, it mentions that the money kept coming in from everywhere else.
Right.
Right. But his people are prospering, and they love him.
Well, it says everybody had their own home and garden.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The whole country. Everybody was satisfied, produced. And so there's this idea, and you mentioned everything rises and falls on leadership. John Maxwell became famous for that. That statement existed way before John Maxwell. I hate to bust your bubble, but he became famous for that. John also was famous with really introducing the American business world to the idea of servant leadership, built around Jesus being a servant leader, right? And so a servant leader doesn't only work for his own benefit. He works for the benefit of others. A servant leader in the household, the father, doesn't just work for his own comfort and his own benefit. He works for the comfort and benefit of the whole family. Well, then what happens is he also gets comfort and benefit. Right. And that's what happens with the king. I've had the privilege of knowing a couple of and meeting president in Africa, working for a king in Africa, working for sheikhs in the Middle East that are, I'm not saying that they're completely moral people, but their mindset is work for the betterment of the nation and the betterment of the people. And in all three of those countries, the people loved their leaders. I'm not saying that they're perfect. They also do some things I wouldn't agree with, obviously, but the people love these leaders because these leaders are building streets and good water supply and sewers and prospering the people and supporting business and bringing in business from outside the country and bringing in other revenues and building hospitals and schools and all these things. Those kings could, by right of the law of their land, just hoard all that stuff. And instead, they turn it out to the people in a way that the people benefit. And then they're providing education and training so that the people get better and better. And the nations become stronger and stronger. you and I have also been in nations where the kings were the other way. They took everything, and everybody lives in poverty. Everybody lives in ignorance. Nobody has education. People die young because they don't have any medical supplies, any care, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what you see with Solomon, is he's a phenomenal leader who is putting God and people first, and he has outrageous wealth himself, right? The other thing that I'd like to just kind of end with this is very interesting. It says in verse 29, God gave Solomon very great wisdom and understanding and knowledge as vast as the sands of the seashore. And then it said it exceeded all of the wise people. We made jokes about He-Man and all those guys. It's not the He-Man. I was going to say the real He-Man. This is real He-Man. Yeah. It's not the cartoon He-Man.
I have the power.
But he was a writer. He wrote some 3,000 proverbs. He was a musician. He wrote over 1,000 songs. He could speak with authority about horticulture, about food, about animals and birds and creatures and fish, right? He clearly was brilliant at law. He was brilliant at organizational leadership. That's why the Queen of Sheba came to see him. There's something about it's what we in the Western world would call a Renaissance man, right? He clearly had a curious mind. So God gave him the supernatural gift of wisdom, but it doesn't look to me like he just rested on that gift. He took his gift, invested with curiosity, and became very intelligent about a breadth of things.
Which is knowledge, which is
This is different than wisdom.
Right.
His wisdom drove him to pursue knowledge, and his knowledge then enhanced his wisdom.
Right.
Right? And there's something about that, I always encourage young people, when you're growing up, be very well read, develop a curious mind. Maybe the greatest mind is a curious mind. Right. And so read a breadth of things. I had one of my mentors when I was in my late teens, early 20s, really make a big deal about, hey, when was the last time you read the Wall Street Journal? I said, I don't think I've ever read the Wall Street Journal. He said, you should get a subscription to the Wall Street Journal and read it. Then he says, when was the last time you ever read about, and he just started asking things. What do you know about anatomy? What do you know about biology? What do you know about plants? What do you know? So he said, well, then how are you going to talk to people? Do you know anything about engineering? Do you know anything about banking? Do you know anything about real estate? No. You need to know those things. Why? Because you're going to serve people who are experts in those areas, and you won't have anything in common with them if you don't know something about those things. You don't have to be an expert. You just need to know about it. And there is something about that. If you want to be a leader of a lot of people, you need to have a breadth of knowledge, not a narrow knowledge.
Hey, another thing that you'd mentioned earlier, like 10 minutes ago, you said the people of Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand on the seashore, and you said, and that was what God promised Abraham. Yeah. Which, of course, is very famous, right? That was the big promise, to make you a nation. Yeah. And he said those exact words. So here's my question. I wonder if that's the very first time that it was phrased that way.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, then that would be the first time I'm not saying it's the first time it's happened, like that's the moment of that promise being fulfilled. But if it's the first time that it's mentioned, it would definitely be the first time that it's been celebrated, right? Yeah. And then I wonder, like, how many years in between God promising Abraham this, that he's going to make his people a great nation, and then all of a sudden here we have the Jewish people being made a great nation. As much as the sand is on the seashore. So that's the fulfillment of a promise. If that's the case, that's a whole sermon in there together, right?
Absolutely.
That's the the idea that Abraham didn't obviously live to see the fulfillment of that promise.
I don't remember anywhere else where it just declares this.
Yeah.
As being it's in passing, it's a fact. Right. Just saying that has been accomplished. Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember it. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a great thought, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So the promises of God, through every generation, knowing that God never forgets His promises, that He is faithful to His word. If God promises something to you, through His word as a blanket promise. For instance, I will never leave you nor forsake you. There's never a time where you have to pray, God, please be with me. Right. If you're a follower of Christ, if you're a believer in Jesus, there is never a time that you should pray, God be with me. Yeah. Please be with me, because you're not, right? Right. Or Father, give me your Holy Spirit. The Bible says you have the Holy Spirit, right? So there's just certain things that we can just bank on God's promises when He says them. We never have to worry about it. And so there it is. There's another sermon.
That's really brilliant.
So, all right. Well, hey, that's all our time for today. So hopefully we will see you next time on the Bible Guys.